Hi everyone, I'm Allison Johnson, and joining me today is the CTO and CIO of PGA of America, Kevin Scott. Kevin, welcome.
Hello, hello.
We're so excited to have you. Now, one of the best parts about my job is I get to sit down with amazing customers like Kevin and learn about what's top of mind, what's impacting the industry, and you and I have the really fun topic today around AI, generative AI, AI agents, and the complexities that brings to identity and security. So, you've probably heard about this AI thing.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, loosely. So before we jump into the meat and potatoes of it and solve everybody's problems, which clearly we're going to do today, 10 minutes, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? I know there's some nuance with PGA of America, PGA Tours. I know we've got some avid golfers dialing in today. So yeah, would you mind introducing yourself to folks?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm the CTO and CIO for PGA of America. In the U.S., we're exposed to a couple of different PGAs. The PGA Tour is the show that we see every weekend. The PGA of America, which is my organization, we run the major on each tour. So we've got the PGA Championship. In September, we'll come up on the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
These are our big tentpole events. And then we use the money that is raised through those, through television rights, to fund our mission, and our mission is basically the 30,000 men and women who work in the golf industry, primarily in the U.S. So these are people who are golf coaches, running tournaments, general managers of country clubs and golf facilities. So at the core, we're actually a member-based trade association and a not-for-profit. So as we talk today, probably a lot of the answers are going to be a little bit less about the sport of golf and a little bit more about kind of like how we run our enterprise.
Absolutely, the technology and the people behind it, which is amazing. There's a lot of people involved. I know growing up as a kid, I love golfing, so just seeing how technology plays such a key role in your organization is really powerful.
Yeah.
Now, you led a digital transformation. So the PGA of America, when you started and where it is today, is probably a little bit different. Would you mind walking us through how that transformation took place, how you approached it, and maybe some of the big shifts that you saw that you've kind of put into place in your time?
So when I came in, I had spent most of my career in software and product management, so sort of between the two disciplines, but not really in IT, not in cyber, like a lot of things that I wasn't familiar with. But in terms of being able to take the concepts that I'd learned over the career and apply them to IT was exciting. I had kind of come from big companies where I was sort of an oppressed victim of IT, where like it's difficult, it's kind of this faceless thing that like makes work difficult. And so being able to influence those things and the experiences that our employees had was a pretty big deal. So for us, we just basically went to simplicity and try to simplify as many things as we possibly could. We cleared out Active Directory. We no longer have a corporate network. We don't have any VPNs. Everything is sort of unified through Okta, 100% MFA, 100% SSO, everything. So just to like simplify everything down and really kind of condense into a few different areas. And so we sort of place these big investments that helps us to be nice and simple, and it works out really pretty slick.
Yeah, and you've moved everything to the cloud. You've simplified technology, and just a major transformation for the business.
Yeah. So again, taking care of 4 data centers has got some complexity to it, and there was a point where one of our senior engineers was basically chasing down a fan. He was on the phone with FedEx and like trying to get it to the crash cart in Kentucky and replace for a load balancer. And I'm like, I'm done with this. We're going to go to a place where there's no load balancers and fans and stuff. So no DCs, everything's in the cloud, nice and simple, preset.
Yeah, agile. I love it. So that kind of tees us up for AI. It's a game changer. It's disrupting the industry. So I think, that transformation to the cloud, how people are thinking about AI. How is AI kind of reshaping the business for PGA of America? How are you thinking about that?
So we're fortunate because, we're not dealing with a lot of state secrets. We've got plenty of sensitive things, and we care a lot about our brand. But for the most part, we're for example, we're not in a highly regulated environment that allows us to be flexible and to be able to kind of ride towards the front edge of the wave. So that being said, we still have to make sure that we're doing things in a responsible way. For us, that has meant that we're actually not super into agents. We've got a lot of AI deployed for our employees. We have a knockoff version of ChatGPT. It's like we were able to run that like very, very cost effectively. We've got our own agent framework that we've built out that's again in use by our whole company behind the scenes. But all of the agents that we're running, I have to say sort of quotes for agents right now because they're currently limited. They're only allowed to read information. They're not allowed to write information, and they're not allowed to sort of cause other systems to take action.
To act on. Well, this is a huge thing as we talk about non-human identities and AI agents and what that means for the industry. Like, how much access and privilege can you give AI agents? Like, how far? Because identity is such a key part of that, and it's something like our customers are worried about and they're thinking of. And this is what I think the trailblazers and leaders are really thinking about. How do I use AI agents to help my teams be more effective internally and externally, transform both of those experiences, but also do it in a safe and secure way? It's a challenge.
Yeah, and so we're sitting here in the middle of 2025, so this may not age well, but right now, MCP is becoming a thing, and introducing all the auth aspects into MCP is important for us because basically we decided to not try to solve that ourselves. We kind of, it's one of the places where we said, we're just gonna be patient and wait until the world figures this out. And intelligent companies like Okta and Auth0 help us to get those things in place so that we don't have to invent it ourselves. So right now we're just living through that transformation. It's kind of a little wild, wild west, but once we're on the other side of it, then that'll help us. Those are the enablers that we need to be able to move forward.
I'm excited to see how this ages, but more importantly, where the industry goes. Because I think to your point, like, everyone's building this robot and you're taking the brain and the arms and you're connecting it and you're building code, but you're also looking for leaders to help shape and define that for you, which is really an interesting time.
Yeah, and of course, as you think about like what we do inside the company, it's just like a massive change management.
Yeah.
It's not new. I think in a lot of cases we think about AI technology as something that has to be like purely a technology initiative, and boy, that fades away really quickly, and you start to realize it's really about like hearts and minds. How do you get people comfortable? How do you get people educated and fluent and able to be their best selves? There's this really cool magic that's happened when we can combine people who understand the technology, like this is what it is and isn't, this is what it can and can't do, with people who have like some kind of domain expertise. They've got a certain partner that they work with, or a certain part of the industry, or a certain segment of things that they're interested in. And once you can combine those two things together, you've got the vantage point of like, hey, I know this market, and it's like, hey, I know nerdery, so like let's put our heads together, and that's really where we've seen the good things come out.
Absolutely. Just the ability to scale, having that talent and the technology together is remarkable.
Yeah.
And I know your team is pretty unique in the sense of you have a lot of engineers, and I think you've done that intentionally so you can build quickly. So how are you having conversations with your team around AI? Like, do you are they brainstorming with you together? How are they bringing up ideas that they have, to your point, to bring like that domain expertise and the technology together? How are you guys brainstorming to like really push the limit?
Yeah, so it's our goal to make sure that we have an AI fluent workforce, and in order to do that, there's not a recipe for it, right? So we're starting by looking at what that means to educate just the technology part. I get a little bit more latitude in that space, so that looks, again, it's heart and minds. We've got a good ability to have software engineers who can get in, get their hands on it, get dirty fingernails, and be able to understand the technology. That sets us up to make really intelligent decisions in terms of what are the things that we choose to buy, what do we choose to build. But the whole campaign looks like, hey, this isn't unapproachable. For example, let's just try this, and it starts with just shoulder to shoulder. Let me show you, and pretty soon people start to take that and run with it. So that's worked out as a really great formula for us, as opposed to, hey, here's like the book of AI. It's like assigned reading, like a compliance training kind of thing, and then all of a sudden you're done. Don't see it that way. It's something where you constantly have to be learning more. Anything that you learn today, there's going to be something different to learn, or maybe even a different set of assumptions 6 months from now. I've been shocked by how many folks are still hanging on to like an assumption or an understanding that's really like 6 or 9 months out of date. And so it's super important to make sure that we as leaders in the industry are constantly staying fresh on this stuff, because whatever it's bad at today, it'll be less bad at tomorrow, and you just need to make sure that we're fresh on our information so you can make good decisions.
Every day, it changes every day.
Yeah.
Now, as you think about AI internally, it's really cool to hear about how your engineers are staying kind of on the bleeding edge. How are you thinking about AI for like your members and your fans? Because that's also just a really exciting world of, you have your internal stakeholders and your team in the company, but AI for that fan experience, I'm thinking like, score tracking and just technology and devices and all of these things. Like, how do you see AI kind of influencing that world as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think just the way that we experience sports is going to continue to evolve, and this has been evolving for quite some time. If I can focus for a second a little bit on like more of the industry impact, the way that the golf industry works is a very relationship business. And for a long, long time, I'm sure it's human beings that are going to play and enjoy golf.
Yes.
But the way that that industry is served is it's actually very labor intensive. So we're already starting to see things, robotics is starting to become a factor. You've got robo mowers, you've got robots that will pick the range. We've got them at our office running around. So
they deliver drinks. I've been on a golf course or two before.
Yeah.
They've done that.
Yeah, so this stuff, it's probably going to look very, very different from ChatGPT in terms of like how it affects the industry and what people experience. It'll look probably a little more physical in form. But again, so I think that robotics is probably the place where that comes into the picture more than anything. For example, a lot of our members who are running golf facilities are going to have to make decisions if they can afford a $30,000 or $80,000 humanoid-shaped robot. What are they going to do with it?
Right.
It works 3 shifts a day and never shows up hungover. Like, what is that going to mean? What are you going to choose to do there? That said, we've got a lot of folks in the business of golf, and they're discovering what can you do if you've got a writing assistant, and if you've got an agent, things like that.
Right.
So it's multifaceted.
Yeah, it's exciting to just see how that will transform over time as well.
Yeah, and nobody would think sort of like AI and golf. Come on, what are you talking about?
Right.
But it turns out it's a good indicator that like if it's affecting golf, you really know it's going to be affecting everything.
Okay, so a quick pivot into the security world.
Mm-hmm.
So we sit down with CISOs a lot, and we've been talking around wage mole and just the implications of AI, how in the wrong hands can be detrimental. So how are you guys thinking about maybe mitigating the risk of AI, or how is like the security and identity with AI maybe keeping you up at night? Are there any of those that kind of resonate with you in your role?
Maybe a note of thanks to start out with, because largely through what we do with our like workforce identity and the things we do with Auth0, that already positions us in a place where there's a lot of stuff that we don't have to worry about. I mentioned like we don't have a corporate network anymore, and we don't have Active Directory. So like there's a lot of blocking and tackling and headaches that just don't exist for us, which is fantastic because it sets the stage to be worrying about all these like totally next level kinds of things that are happening. So I'm thankful that we're in a position to be able to do that, and you guys have been great partners for us in it. I think at this point, here we are in 2025, our organization is still relatively naive in terms of all the things that are possible. We're going to see a lot of great innovation coming from a lot of bad guys.
I know.
And the size and shape and the way that those things look it's anybody's guess. So, for example, like we don't see a lot of AI applicants coming in applying for our jobs yet.
Right.
But I'm sure that's going to be more of a thing. So there's a lot of the things that we are still mostly reading about them rather than experiencing them.
Yeah, which is helpful. You're staying a step ahead.
Yeah.
Trying to, and that's the goal, absolutely. And then what advice do you have to leaders? And I keep this really generic because it could be around AI, it could be around scaling your organization or recruiting talent, like in your experience for leaders watching this and just talking about what's top of mind. Like, what's your advice to leaders today?
So I'm continually amazed for decades in this space by how many non-technical aspects there are to technology.
Yeah.
A lot of what we do is really about hearts and minds. So for example, we're talking about AI adoption and AI fluency. Different people will get there at different paces and in their own ways, and when they arrive at there, it's going to look like different things for them. So you can't just stamp out and say like this is exactly what you need to do, and back to the like training and that kind of thing. So it's going to look different for a lot of people, and you have to just respect the fact that it's change management.
Right.
Like older than dirt concept of forget about the technology. It's not specific to that. Just recognize and remember that people have different rates of change. At the same time, we've got things that are connected to our system. So for example, we have a company knowledge base, the big document repository for all the different things that are sort of general information for our company. And it turns out like you can have conflicting documents in there. And so now it doesn't matter what AI is or like all the technology and all that kind of thing. Like you're sort of back to basics of information management and having clean data and these kind of concepts that have been around forever and ever. So it's been eye-opening to me that while we spend all of our energy talking about what the future is and all the amazing technology, which I'm super passionate about, and I spend my nights researching and all this kind of thing, to realize that really a lot of the problems are actually just human problems and old problems, to make sure that we're set up to take advantage of all these things in the best possible way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, we hear this a lot. We'll ask CISOs, like, what's your advice to someone who's just starting to be a CISO? And they're like, be a great communicator. And to your point, it's not like learn this technology, get this training, get this degree. It's connect with humans, understand the problem, the challenge, the solution, and present it in a way that people can understand.
Yep.
Just, I think the future of AI, understand it, communicate it in a way that your teams or your people or your customers can understand and benefit. Maybe that's the secret.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, we are going to have like ways that you can use the technology to apply it to the top line revenue sides of your business and do business models and these kinds of things. Today, we're currently a little bit more focused on some of the expense side and operational and quality and these kinds of things. I get asked a lot about ROI, and we've been very lucky that for us, the way that we've handled that ROI, we don't have to justify a lot because like ROI is a ratio, right? And so if you invest a lot, then you're going to have to return a lot. We just don't have to invest a lot. And it goes back to what we were talking earlier. We have like a bunch of people who are inside the company. They are competent and are able to do things. So without having to gamble on a bunch of like big outside services or big contracts, we're able to go in, try things out for next to nothing. It takes a day or it takes a week. So by just reducing the amount of investment, it really changes the way you think about ROI and how you approach these different projects too.
I mean, that in of itself of how to stay lean is the pro tip right there.
And maybe.
I love it. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Happy, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.